Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're live. And actually, I'm going to be a good person and actually plug in my headphones so that y'all don't get any echo. Welcome. I'm pleased to be joined by everyone. We're going to talk about publishing and writing, and we're actually going to do some word sprints for once because I'm drafting. Selfishly, I've never done them in previous lives because I'm selfish. So that's going to be really fun. And to start, I want everyone to introduce themselves, say their channel, and let's talk about what we've been working on. I think we streamed 3 weeks ago. So what's the progress, cats and kids? Cool cats and kittens? Cool cats and kittens.
Cool cats and kittens, love it.
I am Carol Baskin. Kevin, we'll just go in order on the screen.
Okay. So I am Kevin from Kevin the Writer, or Kevlandia. I'm known as both. Since the last one, I have finished my edits on my witch book that Laura sent me, like her beta reading. So my agent has that right now. Hopefully we'll get it back soon. And I'm currently kind of reading a craft book. I forgot the name of it that Laura suggested. What is it called?
Story Genius.
I just started Story Genius.
Oh my God, you're reading Story Genius. It happened.
I just started
Finally.
it. I just started it, and then I'm also just kind of like floundering around on the project, but it's like it's for a secret video coming up. So, Laura.
Oh, me. Hi, I'm Laura from Laura Writes, and I'm on a craft journey right now. I am about to start working on a rewrite/revision of my book. So I was kind of stuck with the revisions. So I dedicated a couple of months of like reading a lot of craft books. So I'm actually reading the last craft book I'm going to be reading, which is also for my book club on my channel, which is Steering the Craft by Ursula Le Guin. So that's kind of what I'm working on. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to start plotting out my rewrite for my revision. So that's where I'm at.
Well, hello, I'm Lindsay Puckett. You can find me on my channel, named after myself. I write children's lit, but I focus right now on middle grade. I'm querying a middle grade contemporary fantasy book, and I'm working on my second middle grade contemporary fantasy book. I do a lot of discussion videos talking about disability and writing. And if you're down for that stressy, messy life vibe, I'm your girl. So come hang out with me.
Nice.
I'm Lainey. My channel name is Ginger Reads Lainey, which I plan to rebrand eventually, but this is just who I'm known for, Ginger Reads Lainey. So right now I am waiting for edits to come back from my latest YA fantasy. I should be getting some feedback by Wednesday, so I'm kind of excited and nervous because they could suggest to rewrite the whole thing, which is also on brand for me, is to rewrite things from the beginning. And right now I'm currently working on an older project that I also am starting from the beginning.
Hi, I'm Lizelle Sambry. I have a channel and everything else under my same name. And I'm working right now on editing the sequel for my debut, Blood Like Magic, that comes out in summer 2021 from Margaret K. McElderry /SNS. And so I'm just working on the sequel. This is my first self-edit of it. I usually do a self-edit before I send it to anyone because I don't want them to read my first draft trash. And so that's what I'm working on.
We can talk with you about second book syndrome. Isn't it the best?
You know what? I'm one of those like hated people because I'm just like, I felt insecure for a little bit and then I just like banged it out and then I was just quiet about it because I know I'm a little.
Wait until the edit. I had no problems with drafting and then editing was a nightmare. Because I also was like, I'm a blessed child. I have no problems with my book too. And then my editor was like, well.
Yeah.
But it still worked out. It was great. It was great.
That's when I get to know, but I don't even have that yet because I got to do a round of betas and my agent. And
That's so good. It means you have time. Yeah. I ran right up against my deadline, so you're a professional writer. That's good. So y'all can ask like questions in the stream. We can just like chit chat about TradPub, and yes, I promise we will sprint. We'll continue to just like chat for a while before we do that because I'm a procrastinator. I guess I should say what I'm working on. I am drafting my option material, so a new thriller, a YA thriller, that I will be submitting to my editor in like early October. And I'm actually past the point I have to submit, but because of my plancer nature, I know the more I write, the better, because that helps me find the story and will make my synopsis way more accurate.
Yeah.
So I'm at about 30K. And I haven't touched it in 10 days because my day job is cray. So sprints today are going to force me to actually do some work. Yay!
Cool.
Yes, Blood Like Magic is YA fantasy. Question.
Yes, it is YA fantasy with some sci-fi elements because it's set in the future.
Nice. And Kevin, you're going to go on submission. That's another wackadoodle time.
Yeah. Hopefully soon. I'm hoping because it's like paranormal and there's like witches. I'm hoping they'll go on sub around Halloween time. It really just depends on how long it takes my agent to get back to me and how long it takes to make those edits. But I'm hoping that I'm on sub within the next like month or two.
This is the spooky book chat because Lindsay, you have a spooky book, right?
You have a spooky book. Yeah.
Spooky books are the best.
Yeah, it's true.
And to answer Juanita K in the chat, no, my thriller is not an Ivy sequel. I will only write one if I sell a boatload of copies and my publisher makes me. Not in like a bad way, but if they ask me, I will not turn down their money. But it's a standalone. Like the story completely closes because thrillers usually don't work for sequels unless you have like a detective character who carries across your books. And my character is not that talented, so
I think Karen McManus did a really good job of doing a sequel to her YA thriller.
I think it was a little easier, like in a good way, because she was already multi-POV, and it was like kind of the character of the school, and I'm like low-key gel. I'm like, I did not do that. I did not open the door for myself. So, oh well.
Hers felt kind of like a spin-off, rather than like a direct. I think.
Yeah.
Which I think worked really well.
New characters.
The strongest part about it for me personally was the stuff that didn't tie too directly to the first book. Like I know everyone's a Nate Bronwyn shipper, but I personally don't care. So I liked all the new characters who weren't connected to the first story because that was what I found really interesting. I thought the main thrust of the mystery was really good. So
Bronwyn's little sister would die.
Yes, but she's a plot device to have more Bronwyn and Nate, and I'm not about that life. I know I'm a hater, and I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. I just liked her for like the disability.
I like her a lot. And that's the thing. She was so much sassier in the first book. I wanted her to be a little like sassier. I'm like, you're like a badass.
A couple people in chat want to know how violent YA can get.
Ooh, this is a fun discussion question. How many? I feel like we all have episodes of violence in our books. Probably.
Yeah. I have murder in mine. So
I mean, murder. Murder.
I have attempted murder.
Yeah, we're all doing murder.
I did murder in mine, but yeah.
Yeah, I did torture in my first YA. That was great.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at books that have been published, things like in one of the Divergent books, a little boy gets shot in the head in front of her. So like you can get pretty violent.
I think in traditional publishing, they prefer violence to other things like language and
Do
sex.
we want to talk about clean reads? Because that's a whole other circle of hell. There's also the question here before that one: how filthy can a YA novel get? Swears, gore, and sex. Well, swears. The Ivies has over 120 instances of the F word. And that's just the F word. I did not do a word search on any of the other ones, and they're definitely in there. But the Ivies is upper YA, so that is a distinction.
And there are some publishers, like if you want to be in the Scholastic Book Fair, they don't allow it.
Yep.
So it depends.
Yeah.
But I can say, because Scholastic was interested in the Ivies, I asked about that, and they said, this just won't go in the book club. So I was not asked to edit my language. That was not on the table, and I was like, no.
That's interesting because I've always like in my head been like certain books I write, like my horror that I wrote, I was like, I don't see Scholastic wanting this.
Apparently now they will publish books that don't go in the book.
But I feel like when I went to like book fairs and stuff as a kid, I was buying like Fear Street and Goosebumps and things like that. So to some extent, I feel like they do. I think it just depends on how like.
And that's the violence and the gore. Like Fear Street got pretty, like the one that sticks in my head, like in a good way. I think it's influenced some of my morbid sensibilities. The cheerleaders one where there's like demonic possession and the girl is scalded to death in the shower. Have never forgotten that manner of death. I was like, this is amazing. I was a weird kid, but that was
our age a little bit.
but like that was considered a tween novel. We wouldn't even consider that proper YA now because it's very lower YA in terms of tone. But hey, we're getting a TV show, which is amazing. The Fear Street TV show.
That's so exciting. I love serialized horror TV shows. I like rewatch the entirety of Are You Afraid of the Dark like every couple of years.
And then gore. I don't know if anyone read Wilder Girls, but that had a lot of body horror.
I'm literally in the middle of it right now. I have it right here.
Have you gotten to the gross tree part? That's all I'll say. Gross tree part. That's all you're getting. It's not a spoiler. There's a gross tree part. You're gonna.
I mean, there was something that happened with a tree, but it wasn't too gross. So I'm assuming I haven't gotten to it yet.
Probably, maybe. I don't know if I'm describing it right. I just remember there being a tree.
There is some.
Anyway, it was gross, and I had to skim that page because it was that gross. So you can definitely.
I have not gotten to that yet. Then.
Oh, gosh.
But I'm slightly squeamish. I still obviously was down to read some body horror. But that said, again, that's going to be upper YA normally if you're going to go for real horror.
I had the first day I started reading this, I had a nightmare that night about body horror stuff. I hate body horror stuff, but this book is just really good, so I couldn't help myself. I don't not like body horror, but it's a good book.
It is a good book.
I feel like I'm so desensitized because I read it and I was like, where is the gross bit?
Where she's talking about the extra eyelashes growing behind her eye, and I was like, oh.
I think that was the closest I got to be like, oh, that's.
Did any of you guys read the Wicked Saints series? Because that one
I
was
want to.
Story.
No.
That deals with straight up blood magic.
Yeah.
So it's got tons of body stuff.
Which again, upper YA. So I feel like over the years you can do more than maybe you could in the past. And same thing with sex, which is the kind of a double-edged sword. I guess now we can talk about clean reads. Because it's the line between Sarah J. Maas books that really aren't YA, but now they are. So hey, erotica. And it's good to have sex positive, good representations in a way, but also Fade Black is fine. And so is no content at all. You can literally do almost anything you want short of, I would not go full Sarah J. Maas personally, because I think she's an exception.
I'm thinking of Tahara Mafi's series had a lot of sex in it also. There was there was oral sex and other things.
And the Duff.
Wait,
the Duff had sex.
Are we talking about the Shatter Me series?
Yeah.
There was oral in Shatter Me?
Oh yeah,
he goes down on her. Yeah, I think it was
when and where? I don't remember this at all.
It was a Fade to Black, but it was
heavily implied.
Yes, we were getting directions of where he was going.
Okay.
Well, and that's the thing. It's approach based. It's how you write it, which is why ACOTAR is such an outlier because it's basically adult fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite books to read are smutty adult romances. So I've noticed that when I'm writing, those tropes and some of the language slips into my writing, and I'm always sitting here thinking is this too much for a YA? But then I try to compare it to, this would totally be on this on a CW show, and then it's this weird disconnect between YA publishing and a teen show. You can get away with a lot more on a teen show, which I feel like more people watch than sex in a YA book.
Yeah.
It's always been considered worse to read it than to watch it. though. Like to read the smutty words is more like is considered a bigger deal than to like just visually see it, which doesn't make sense.
Well, my thing is drinking and partying.
Yeah.
Like, because on those CW shows, they drink like adults. And then I put that in my book, and someone's like, should you? And I'm like, shouldn't I?
I had drinking in both my first
I feel like
contemporaries.
white contemporaries, they all have scenes with students drinking.
Yeah.
Hello, did anyone go to high school? Everyone was drinking in high school.
And so the argument I made in my first two, because I had two different editors be like, they drink a lot. I was like, they're European. Because it's true, they were European. My main, like the first one, they were British, and the second one they were Scandinavian and German. I'm like, they're drinking at 16. Fight me. And then in the Ivies, I'm like, it's a boarding school. They are drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then they drink in my new one too. Oh, it's terrible. Drink responsibly, kids. I actually didn't drink in high school, so I am a boring person who didn't go to parties and drink. I know, you're like, wow.
Sorry, I'm visibly shook by that.
I know you can't be friends with me now. I was not cool. I drank in Germany though. It was great because I was legal. It was completely normal there.
For teens watching this, I do not recommend that you drink in high school though.
Go to Germany.
Clear on that. Unless you're in Germany, then go ahead.
No, because honestly, I basically learned to drink in a country where it was completely legal and very normal. They don't binge drink. So it's just like, hey, let's have a beer. Cool, chill, bye. That's it.
It was awesome. I was kind of a
cherry beer.
I was a bad kid.
You were the bad kid. I like that. That's why you're cool. But that's why we write YA. We live vicariously through characters, and I think my character's way cooler than I ever was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually, the scene I'm on right now is a house party at the beach with a bonfire.
We love house parties at beaches.
Right. And I never went to and still have not. So I'm sad.
Wait, you've never been to what?
I haven't been to a beach mansion. To a party with a bonfire on the beach. I would love to. So I created the party I would like to attend at a beach mansion.
I didn't do that until college because I didn't live near a beach. I grew up in the Midwest, so definitely.
That's the thing. I have not been near beach mansions. That's the main thing. I just want to go to a party at a beach mansion. So I wrote one.
I had some friends in college because I went to college here on the coast in North Carolina, and I had friends that would rent out like big giant like beach mansions to have parties in. So I've definitely done the beach mansion party as well.
I think we should do a writing retreat after COVID at a beach mansion and have a beach mansion party.
Is there even going to be an after COVID?
Shut your mouth, Lady. I want to go on a writing retreat so bad. Like, you don't even know.
We should do one down here in the South because a lot of these big houses on the beach have rocking chairs and the fold-around porches.
But after COVID, because I don't trust y'all, I
don't even go to the store. I'm not going to.
You're a good one. Good for you.
Yeah, I don't.
Because like my family is acting a little too chill for my taste. They're like, cool. I'm like,
not Kevin, but some of my other family is.
Because I family.
Yeah.
This is an interesting kind of adjacent question. Does anyone consider thematic underpinnings of their YA novels, and is anything you write religiously or morally charged?
Well, I'm not religious, so I definitely don't write anything religious.
Same.
My book is based off of Roman Catholicism because that's what I had been raised. So that's been a lot of fun to like dive deep into my childhood.
Is this real family?
Dramatic for me.
Mm-hmm. It's basically Roman Catholicism without a Jesus figure, which also kind of seems like it wouldn't be possible. But I don't know. I made it work.
Moral underpinnings? No.
Not really. Like if it's just like having a moral, then there's like a theme, which I guess people could see as like a moral, like learning to trust in yourself and your decisions is like for my debut. But I guess it's like technically a moral, but it's really more of a theme. And I just started doing themes because it was kind of over reading several craft books, I did kind of understand that point. I think was it in Writing Deep Scenes or some book where they were like,
my review for it this morning. It'll be up on my channel tomorrow.
It's coming up. Yeah, but like that thing of you may as well decide your theme because people are going to pull something from it anyway. So why not have something with your leaning towards? And for me, my theme usually ladders up to like the internal conflict. So whatever their internal conflict is and that they need to learn ends up being like the theme.
Yeah, I think that in Writing Deep Scenes, that section on theme is invaluable. I would highly recommend that for sure.
Mm-hmm. I personally find that theme emerges as I'm writing or after I'm writing / in editing. Like I don't personally set out to be like, this is the theme. But against my own intentions, I realize in hindsight, oh, that does have a theme. And then I'm like, I'm smart. I did that. It's never intentional. So like the Ivies ended up being far more about like my personal feelings about competitive college admissions and privilege than I mean, I should have known it was going to happen. But when you finish it, it has a very strong, I guess, ethic. I have an ethical stance and a moral stance, and I hope people get it. Is the way to put it.
Gabriella said she loves reading about religion in fantasy books. That I like religion in fantasy books. So like
I love a rich system.
Yeah, like my fantasy book idea has religion in it that does fuel some people, but I'm not interested in real world religion like at all. Fantasy religion's super interesting to me. Same thing with fantasy politics, real politics and religion.
I love fantasy politics.
Yes, my favorite. I love like political intrigue in fantasy books. My favorite thing.
It's really hard though to create your own political system and religion. It's challenging.
Lainey did it really good.
Oh, thanks.
I was just, like, as we're talking about religion, I'm just like, because I loved everything that she did with that whole, like, she took a religion and then she made it like also political, and like all of the players have different like motivations, but they've got to be religious at the same time. It's just great. I'm a big fangirl of this book, though.
Well, thanks.
Yay. We stand. I'm thinking we could do a sprint at 1:30, which gives us 6 more minutes to chat. Let's throw up. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
I would say I'm going to be using the Forest app. If anybody wants to join a room with me, I can create one. But if not,
tell me more.
So on the Forest app, you can create a room, and then like we can all join the room together. So if anybody goes on their phone, it kills the tree for all of us. But it's a way for you to get trees in your garden or your forest that you don't necessarily have. So like I have a maple tree because that was my personality tree. So someone that wants a maple tree that can't get a maple tree can then get it. So I'm going to be using this if anybody wants to do it.
That's very advanced. We're going to put a pin in that for me personally. Because I'm old. Okay. No, I'm just really bad at change. But that sounds interesting, and I might check that out. So Night Owl Reader has asked this a few times. You've published your first book, but you know, I'm guessing that means you don't know which of your many ideas, or you equally love your ideas. What do you do? So this is about, I think this can apply to anyone, like picking your next project. I'm a multi-idea person. I feel like a lot of us are multi-idea people. What do we do?
Yes, I'd like to know the answer to this. What do we do? And my book is done. I don't know which project I want to work on next, so I'd like to hear your answers to this.
I usually brain dump. No, you can go first, Lindsay.
Nope.
I brain dump everything that I have on both projects, and whichever one like speaks to me, which one I'm like vibing with the most, then I'll start doing everything else with the pre-writing, and then I just commit to that one.
What I was going to say was, and I don't know if this is like the best method, but I'm querying. So I'm querying a middle grade fantasy that's kind of spooky. And so I have maybe 5 other book ideas, and I chose what project I was working on next because my thinking was if the book I'm querying gets picked up, it's a standalone, and I know publishers sometimes like to buy standalones into, or at least take an option. So I picked out of my pool of books, I picked the one that was closest to the one I'm already querying. so that way I could just like have them both ready to go, hopefully. But I don't know if that's like the best thing to do, because I don't know if everyone would be as passionate. You know what I mean? Like, or even if I'm as passionate about the book I'm working on as maybe another one. But I feel like career-wise, it might be a better decision. But like, I don't know. I'm no expert. That's just what I did.
I think that's smart, personally. I've definitely done that kind of thinking. In terms of if you're already, you have a book deal, and Lizelle, I don't know if you've already been thinking about next. I don't want you to spill any secrets that you can't talk about. But so obviously, if you know something's set in stone, whether that's you have an agent for a book or you have your book deal, you should consider your brand. That's really smart. You should consider, what do readers expect from me? What do they like about me? And which of my projects aligns at least spiritually with that, even if it's different. Because something that I do see that I personally feel is a misstep, and everyone has to do their own thing, is when an author does something completely different for their second or third book. And by completely, I mean like it doesn't even have like a same style or voice. It doesn't mine similar trope families. It's not about writing the same thing over and over again, but knowing what readers actually like about your work, if that makes sense. Because readers will carry over. Let's say you start with a fantasy and then you write a sci-fi, or even, I mean, I'm going from sci-fi to thrillers, but I'm keeping a lot of my tropes and my themes, and hopefully it carries over. But I did consider that. I actively considered, like, what am I actually good at? Plus what I want to write. You just have to be excited. And when you do pitch to an editor, you have to make a case for the market. So yeah.
For me personally, because I haven't sold anything yet, I just write what I want to. It's like my first two were like what I'm feeling in that moment. Like my first two were YA contemporaries, but then the Witch book is like a urban fantasy. So because I haven't sold anything, I don't really have to think about that. But now if the Witch book sells, I do have to keep that in mind as like what my next book's going to be, because a lot of my book ideas are YA contemporary, and I don't want to make that huge jump between those right away.
All right, we made it to 1:30. It's time to do a sprint. We're about to test my technical abilities. It's going to be super fun. All right, y'all will forgive me if I'm bad at this. All right, I'm going to do a 15-minute. Is everyone? I like 15-minute sprints, if everyone's good with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet. Kevin, you have a forest question in the chat.
It's just an app called Forest, I think, and it's just an app like to keep you focused on what you're working on. So if you pick up your phone and close out of the app, it'll kill the tree. It's just a way to like, it's just a mental way to keep you engaged in what you're doing,
so that you don't do other things on your phone.
It's on your phone. There are, I think, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 people in the group with me right now. So.
Okay, so we're gonna try this. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna learn things.
Make sure you don't have anything accidentally still up on your screen in case you share the wrong thing.
Naughty on my phone. Okay.
Sometimes I just have like my Google Calendar up, and then I'm like, oh, I don't need everyone to see where I'm going and all of my whereabouts.
All right, did that work?
Yes.
Yes. Y'all are learning alongside me. Okay, so I'm gonna start this. We're gonna go for 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh, I love Bernadette Banner. I see her on your recommended.
Oh, right. Yeah, I love her. Yeah, y'all are going to know my recommendeds now. So, all right. So I'm going to start. All right. And experts, Kevin and Laura, who do this all the time. And actually, Lizelle, you do this too. Actually, you all stream. I'm the only one who doesn't stream Sprint. I should mute my computer, right, when I do this?
Unless you want people to hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The camera has no sound until the end. If that
We're going to start, and then I'm going to shut my mouth. Okay. Which is really hard for me.
Ding-a-ling.
Ding ding.
Always with the
Yay.
You know
I
what's so
did it.
funny? When you kicked me out, I was like looking at the boxes. I was like, there's 6 of us. Whose box is missing? And I kept like looking through and I was trying to think of everyone's. I was like, wait a minute, it's me. I do this one.
I was trying to switch browsers and I knew I did something and I
It
couldn't
took me
figure
like
out.
forever, dude. I was like, okay, Lindsay, Lizelle, who else is supposed to be in there? I was like, wait, I'm down here in the bottom.
All right, how did we do? She says no
300
pressure
words.
because I barely wrote. 300 words, yay! I wrote 156.
I only
so-
read like 2
yeah.
pages because I was writing a lot of notes on things I think about this book. So, yeah, I was doing my own little writing.
Laura was busy trying to figure out
That
who got
too,
kicked
I
out.
was like that meme with the lady and the triangle and the numbers, and I was like, Lindsay's in there, Lainey's in there.
I surprisingly got 830 words, but a caveat, a lot of dialogue, like a lot of dialogue. That's a lot of my first drafts. I'm working on a first draft. A lot of my first drafts are dialogue heavy. So, and I had like 3 conversations happen back to back. So I got 830 words. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're like, I can't hear you. I'm like, yes, because I moved my mic to the side because I needed to use my keyboard. That would be why. I hope you can hear me now. Hi. I swear I can computer. Like, seriously.
Well, I just read over what I had already written so I could get like back in the feel of my story and back in the voice. I didn't add any new words, but I did buy Renaissance Festival tickets. So when me and my husband are gonna buy like plague masks, you know, the big
Oh my
beak
God.
Very apropos.
Thank you. I thought it was like very like witty, but then I was like, no, everyone's gonna do the exact same
Yeah.
thing.
I love plague mask. I've always been like a big fan of that aesthetic even before. So then when the pandemic happened, I'm like, yes, this is for me. I'm very that. Like, I love that.
Loving your word counts, everyone. Like,
Yeah, people are killing it.
385, 400, 402, hold on, 213 edited, 278. See, I love 15-minute sprints because it's like enough to like dig in and get something done, but it's not too little or too much. I've tried 10s and 10s really overwhelm me. At 20s are almost too long and I get antsy personally.
Yeah, when I first started doing sprints, I always did 15 because that 20 was like too long. But now that I'm a seasoned sprinter, I like the 20 because it takes me about 5 minutes to figure out like where I was, what I'm doing, and what I'm going to be writing. And then I have about 15 minutes of actually doing something.
When I'm drafting, I want to do 20 minutes, but when I'm editing, I'm like, don't want to. So then I look at 15 minutes.
Yeah, I need to finish this chapter. It's basically been sitting here for almost 2 weeks. I'm so lazy. Oh gosh, no, it's been 2 weeks since I touched my book. Oh no. All right, for goodness.
During the sprint, someone asked about inciting incident.
Yeah, I saw that. Hold on,
And I wanted to bring this up because I think this is a great question, first of all, like thinking about when it should happen and how soon, especially because I just finished reading the book Hooked, which is about novel beginnings by Les Edgerton. And he says that, and I want to know what you guys think, the rest of you guys think. He says that the inciting incident should happen in your opening scene.
No. Sorry, that's just me. Sorry, what?
I'll be right back. You guys keep talking.
So I'm curious what you guys think about that. Lizelle, I feel like you followed that, yeah?
So it's sort of weird because I read Hooked so long ago and I like loved it and I was like, this blew my mind. And then I, of course, forgot everything and I was supposed to reread it before Laura finished and I didn't do any of that. But it's really strange. I don't usually do inciting incidents that early because of the way my book is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sort of strange to me. I think he put like to have the inciting incident happening in the opening scene because he was worried about people doing too much setup or doing setup that's kind of boring. Like, I consider my book starts with like a mini inciting incident. Like,
that's actually what he says. Yeah, that's actually what he says, is that it's like the first that will lead into several other, but that you need to have the first hint of trouble in your first scene. Which I feel like even your first line indicates that, Lizelle.
Yeah, and that's how I start my books. Like, I'll start with some sort of, the hint of trouble, and the character will have a very clear goal to, like, get them through the chapter, and so that the people that are reading have something to, like, read towards, but the actual, like, big incident that changes their whole trajectory in the story that I consider to be the actual inciting incident won't happen until later, because I have to do setup, because that's where I've messed up in the past, like doing the big thing right away because nobody gives a crap about your character yet.
He does go into depth about that in terms, like I said, in terms of like having the hint of trouble, and he's kind of calling that the inciting incident, but then he does say that, like, yes, there's a larger thing that happens later, but that you should already be starting that from the first scene. So
well, based on that, I mean, I'm fine to call it hint of trouble, but I don't think you should call it inciting incident, because inciting incident is pretty well understood by us to be not that. I think if you do it in the first scene or chapter, in most cases, that's way too soon, because we don't care about the characters. We don't understand what the status quo is. So how can we care? Imagine if in the first scene, like the literal first scene of the Hunger Games, that it was the reaping. That wouldn't work. And it happens at the end of the first chapter. But there's
actually a lot of complaints about that, about the way Hunger Games begin.
Well, they can come for me.
And that, well, I'm just saying that people consider that a snowflake example, because most books would not make it to, like, especially if it's your first book, editors and agents would not like all of that setup in the beginning of the Hunger Games. That's the argument that people make.
I feel like I disagree, because the hint of trouble.
It's not my opinion. I'm just disagreement. I mean, that's what I've heard.
Hunger Games stand.
Who are they, Laura? I have to fight them.
I love Hunger Games. Y'all know I'm a Hunger Games stan. So I'm just saying that is a common thing that I've heard about the Hunger Games, is that she's an exception rather than the rule. So
I see why
Laura's a cat piss stan.
I am a cat piss stan. I understand why people are saying that, because it feels like it's her daily routine. Like, she goes out hunting and she goes to the Hob and she like meets with Gale, blah, and like does But I think like the hint of trouble is that the Hunger Games choosing is coming up, and that's what's like propelling you forward.
Or
is
even
that
her mom
reaping is going to happen. Yeah,
that she has to hunt for food. It's like it's a creeping tone. It's a buildup. And I especially like, I know it's not literally a thriller, but it has the pacing of a thriller. I think slower progression is, I mean, slow is a relative term. It's better to build up. But I know the original question was, it sounds like the inciting incident's on page 67. And the feedback was that it wasn't happening in the first 50. I will say, when you're querying or even trying to sell, sometimes you should force yourself to be a little more rigid. If you know that they're not getting it in your partial, you have to make whatever cuts you have to do to move it up. It doesn't necessarily mean a major rewrite. What my agent had me do to sell my book, I had a similar problem. My inciting incident wasn't happening until it was really close to page 100. Will not lie. And we did literally just trimming the writing. Just trimming the writing. We didn't change any of the actual like things that happened. And I got it a lot closer to page 70. And that pacing edit and a couple other edits helped sell the book. Because it was the inciting incident, at least in terms of mine, was literally leaving her spaceship. But I needed the setup. And so sometimes you just have to do those edits to get rep or get it sold. So,
yeah. I'll talk really quickly about the two books that I've queried and what worked for me. My first book, The Inciting Incident, was in the first chapter. And then most agents will request the first 3 chapters of your book. So I found what was happening there was that I would have like a really exciting first chapter, and then the next 2 chapters would be like the setup for Act 2 almost. So it was like by the time the agent read to the end of the 3rd chapter, it was like things were kind of like slowing down a little bit. Whereas with my new book, my middle grade, the book leads up into the end of the 3rd chapter where the inciting incident takes place. And once the agent reads the end of the 3rd chapter, it's almost like a cliffhanger because we're like at the most intense the book has been yet. And I think there's a lot of other factors that go into my request rates, but I have had more requests with the one where I had the inciting incident at the end of chapter 3 than in chapter 1. So if that helps at all.
And I'll also say for the Ivies, I was actually really meticulous. Like I made sure that my murder happened by page 50. That is definitely something that I had to force myself to do. And on my new one, that's not going to work because I'm 100 pages in and she's not dead and I have a problem. But we're going to worry about that later.
Especially like in children's, I think it's a little bit different in adult, especially if you're doing like adult speculative.
Yeah.
But in children's, I think it is. I mean, I think it's pretty important to get it in. You know, keep that attention from your reader. So,
anyone else have thoughts on the inciting incident? Kevin.
I just don't. I mean, I don't know if I did it well, but like the witch book opens with inciting incident. But it's hard to explain unless I don't know how to explain it. It kind of jumps right in because I had it starting at a different point, and every beta reader was like, "Why is it starting here? This is not interesting." So I started to add an inciting incident instead. But I don't know if it's good or not.
Because I've read your book, Kevin, I will say, and this is kind of what I think Alexa was getting at or Lizelle, I'm sorry, Lizelle was saying is that I think the reason was because where it was beginning was a lot of setup, and it was like too much setup at the beginning. Yeah. You want your reader you want to pull them in, and you're not going to pull someone in with like setup and background like you're supposed to, you know what I mean? So that for yours in particular is why.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
I think it can be different with every book. And like, there are some books that do it right away where it really works. And then others where you're allowed to like do it a little differently. I did just post like a pacing video, and I actually use not page numbers, but percentages on your Kindle. And I do find that helpful because I find it's not hard and fast, but if it hasn't happened between 10 and 25%, which is essentially your first act, you do have a problem. But I think there's wiggle room where it falls, and it depends on also what your break into 2 is. It's just structural. So, because like an inciting incident doesn't have to be like massive. It can be what will feel relatively minor. So at least thinking about my debut, technically it's that she gets a letter to leave her ship, but really romantically the inciting incident is when she meets the love interest, but that's actually a break into 2. Mm-hmm. So you can have multiple like game-changing moments, and it's a little flexible as long as you keep your reader hooked. Yeah.
For Cruel Family, the first chapter had the inciting incident for like the revision. Lindsay, you read that version where the inciting incident happens on chapter 1, but now with this like latest revision, it's been moved back. So like in the first chapter, it's like the hook of what will catapult into the inciting incident, and then that doesn't happen until at the end of chapter 3 now.
Well, but you do have the hint of danger because I've read your new chapter 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Hint of Trouble, that's what it's called.
The Hint of Trouble, yeah.
I think that's smart.
So a hint of trouble in the first like scene or first chapter, like right there at the beginning, and then you'll have that will lead into the inciting incident. Yeah.
But I did want to mention real quick that like it's hard when like I always plan to like query this novel, and it's hard to figure out for pacing wise when you should put those things in, because it's like obviously you want the agents to read like so much in like the sample pages that will want them to keep reading, but then you're just like unsure. And like now that I moved it all back, I'm like, does that help? I don't know. Fingers crossed.
And in a regular romance, it usually is the meet cute. Yes, just for pacing. And that's the thing. The rules are different depending on your genre. depending on the rest of your story structure. Lainey, I believe in you.
My second
I hope.
YA was my second YA contemporary was a romance. And the meet cute happens in chapter 1, so that's kind of the inciting incident. But then the hook at the end of the first chapter, is you find out that the gay main character has a baby. That's his biological baby. So that's the hook in that one. So I had the meet cute happen in chapter 1 on that one.
Yeah. We have some more really good questions. Hold on. I liked this one. If anyone has thoughts on this. I do, but I talk too much, so I'll shut up for a while.
I don't know. This hasn't been my experience, and I will say that because my grammar and my formatting is not amazing. I regularly incorrectly do the wrong quotations after M dashes. I have all sorts of comma splices. I was using the wrong quotation marks for my entire debut and only learned when my editor did line edits. And I was like, oh, is that? Oh, I was like, 2
Those things are obvious, though. Like, that's so, and that's the thing, it's so easy. Is it straight versus the?
No, it's the pronouns, but I didn't realize, like, when you, like, if your character says something in quotation marks, for some reason I was using 1 and you're supposed to use 2.
Oh, it's probably for Canadian, though. It's okay.
But it was fine.
In England, they use singles. So that's being weird American.
So it wasn't completely horrific, but I did it a lot in the book. And every time I saw it, I was like, I'm sorry, Sarah. I felt bad for my editor. So my experience has been that agents don't care unless it's atrocious.
Well, I think to add to that, Lizelle, it's like the difference is that it was clear you didn't know you were doing something wrong, and that is very different than not editing your own work. And so I feel like if an agent or someone receives something that doesn't look like you've gone over it and that you've tried to clean it up, that's very different than turning something in where you clearly didn't understand how this functions, or you didn't understand this one thing. And the consistency of doing something wrong is a way less than just like, because when I was a teacher, I'd have the same experience where it's like, I could tell the difference between when a student didn't actually go back over it and look at it at all versus, they don't understand how a comma works. And that's why they were doing it incorrectly. And so you're a little bit more lenient to that because an agent wants to feel like you read it and spent a lot of time on it and polished it. But if you don't understand a certain thing, that they do have editors for that. So there's, you know what I mean, to help you with those things.
I also feel that like something, quotations are almost a formatting thing. I don't think that detracts from the reading experience. So I think the line is when the SPAG, the grammar and usage detracts from the reading experience. If they're stopping frequently, that's when you're going to use them as a reader, an agent or a beta reader. And I've definitely had this experience when, because it's not just straight up grammar. As a reader, I've also had this with 101 level crack kind of stuff. Like if it's too much filtering, if it's too much telling, that'll stop me as well. So it's not just like how do you use a comma, it's like it's how messy it is and whether you've gone over it thoroughly so that it's a fluid reading experience.
And I've like beta read stuff that's like the person is doing their dialogue and every single dialogue tag is said. And like that's the sort of thing where it's like kind of a more basic thing. It's like not quite grammar, but it's sort of like it's style and it's, research and like doing your part.
Well, for instance, my agent signed me, and after returning the notes, like the first round of revisions to me, there were grammar errors that I should have caught, to be honest. But like, I think that like kind of like what Laura's saying, like they just want to know that you at least tried, like you went back and edited it. You don't want to just write it, do one revision and then turn it in. Like they want to know that you actually tried. But I think that if you have like, I always mess up effect and effect, always, even though I know the difference, I still mess it up every time. So like things like that, like if it's like one word or like a comma splice here and there, I don't think an agent's gonna be like, this person is out. But you don't want it to be like Alexa said, where it detracts from reading it.
Especially because most agents also don't know how to use a comma correctly, and if it's a comma splice. It's been my experience that 90% of people don't even know a lot of like comma rules and things. So those you can get away with. I feel like
also literally copy editing's job.
Yeah. So It's more about to read it. Can they read it? Can they understand it? Like Alexa said, is it making them stop and be like, wait, what are they saying?
And also, how editorial are they? Heavily editorial agents don't mind if there's work to be done.
Yeah.
And so, like, you should check if an agent makes clear through their MSWL, or really it's usually interviews, that they really don't like editing as much. You probably have to be a lot cleaner. But I'd say most agents are editorial nowadays.
Yeah. One thing I always mess up, every single time, is the difference between an ellipsis when somebody's trailing off rather than being interrupted, which is the dash. Every single time, my
agent
fix it. Every time my agent has.
My thing is it's always with apostrophe. I mess them up all the time.
Speaking of that, my Word just updated, and now it's telling me every time I use a contraction, it's like, if you're trying to be formal, you shouldn't use contractions. I don't know why, but Word just updated.
Shut up, Word. I would, tell them to F off. I'm not about that life.
It can never a problem before today.
It's a feature you can turn off, Kevin. Probably just auto was turned on with the update. It's a grammar and usage feature.
I'll have to fix it because it is annoying.
How dare they? I feel judged.
I'm looking and someone's asking about, is it harder to find a publisher when your novel is across multiple genres?
Lizelle, this one's for you.
Yeah, there you go.
I can't speak to everyone, but I can speak to my personal experience. And I want to say that a lot of my feedback was about the difficulty with a genre mix, difficulty placing it, but it was also vaguely difficulty with genre mix. So it could have been, are you doing it correctly or not? But me and my agent going into it knew that was going to be a factor for us in some cases, but it did ultimately sell. So I think it's kind of like, I shy away from like discouraging people to do genre mixes because like there's always exceptions. Like there may be a way that you do it that's like fresh and different that people like, or there may be a way that you do it that is just like different. But like from my experience with publishers, like that ended up being a lot of feedback I got, but it's hard to say with editor feedback, like if that's the only thing or to like pinpoint exactly, but I definitely had some difficulty in that case. But
do we want to talk about a few more and then do a sprint at 2:15? Does that work?
Sure. Sounds good.
See, I have to remind myself to do it because otherwise I'll talk forever and procrastinate doing work. So, because I actually, this is a good question because I know, Lizelle, you've had experience with this, and I have a modicum of experience, and it's a good question.
Yeah. So for me, like I had a beta reader that did an early sensitivity read for me, and they did that for free. I did not have coins at that time, and so it was difficult for me to get early readers. I think it's always great, like the earlier you can get a sensitivity reader, I always think the better. I think that's amazing, but I'm also like very realistic in that it is an expense, and it can be difficult to pay for that. But yeah, I think that's one of the good things about having varied beta readers. Their job is not to sensitivity read for you. They're beta readers, but sometimes they can at least like give you a little nudge to be like, this thing was kind of, and then you can kind of know about getting more sensitivity readers. But in the case of my publisher paid for one, and I got two more, and I paid for those myself. Would I have gotten a sensitivity reader for lots more characters if I had like unlimited budget? Of course, but I did not, and being realistic about that cost as well, because each, for like a full sensitivity read, like the going rate is like about $750 to $1,000. So something definitely to keep in mind budget-wise. And some publishers will give you more. It just depends on your publisher, your editor, and your project, and all that stuff.
Yeah, it totally varies. I haven't had a paid one yet. My previous publisher wouldn't pay. Although I heard they may have changed their policy, but at the time, and that's the thing, it is organic, evolving process. A lot of publishers are getting way better at paying for it because they really should be the ones who pay for it, in my personal opinion. Because, I mean, part of the reason we need them is that their staffs aren't diverse enough to have people working at the publishers who can actually spot microaggressions in manuscripts. That's a them problem. But it's the ecosystem we live in that we are paying freelancers to do this work. I also had a beta do one for free for me on my current manuscript, which was just like the coincidence of like they wanted to read it as a CP, and they were like, I can read this character for you. And I was like, thank you. Yes. But my publisher has indicated they will pay for some sensitivity reads for the IVs. But based on this one and what I've heard from other people, I personally think TradPub does it too late. They tend to do it after copy edits. And I think that's way too late. But I guess it's better than nothing.
Yeah, mine happened kind of simultaneously. So it was my second, when I sent it off for my second larger edit, we also sent it off to readers. And so then when I was doing my second, like, I guess it was technically my line edit, then I was making all those changes. But like having frank discussions, like I had already discussed with my editor, and it was like, if it's something larger that needs to be addressed, then we'll do that. And it'll just like, we'll redo line edits at a later stage. But in my case, it was just like a few paragraphs that needed to change.
Yeah.
And then I resent something to one of the sensitivity readers because I wanted to check in on the new paragraphs I added, and I paid him for that. So he was originally paid by the publisher, and then I paid him for the follow-up.
Nice.
Out of pocket.
Oh, I promised we do a sprint. We have 3 minutes. So let me just throw up some quick questions. This one popped up. No, you don't need to have a backlist of novels to query. And in fact, if you're going for traditional publishing, it might work in your favor not to have published things previously. If you're thinking of self-publishing, and they don't expect a backlist from anyone. If you do have a backlist, mention it, but it's not expected. Let's see. I feel like there was a marketing question I skimmed over. Actually, we'll do another quickie. No, you do not have to write short stories before you write novels. I personally am incapable of writing short stories, thus I've never written one.
I'm terrible at that.
Yeah, me too.
It's a different art form and medium. So if you're not vibing on short stories, don't try to write them because you think it's a requirement or a stepping stone. Many people do organically jump from the short story market to novel writing, but you don't have to. And honestly, it's so hard to succeed as a short story writer. I personally think you waste your time and spin wheels if you don't live and breathe short stories. It's not worth it because it doesn't really help you write novels. So.
Yeah. I feel like that's like an academia myth. Laura, you might be familiar with like when you're in academia, they're like, you write all these short stories and then you submit to all these like
100%.
It's so old school too. Like you get your MFA and you do the market, and yeah,
that's 100% what's pushed in academia is short story writing, and that is one of the reasons that led me to wait so long to start writing books, because I knew I was terrible at writing short stories, so I thought that meant I could never write a book. So don't listen to people. Those things are two separate things. You could be good at both, or maybe only good at one of those, and they're not like mutually, like they don't have to be connected.
All right, we're gonna do the next sprint, but I see some of y'all are asking questions about money, which is really, really exciting. So that's just something to look forward to when we're done with the sprint, because I love talking about money. Okay, but we're gonna do this because it's me being disciplined with myself that we're going to do these sprints. So another 15, or you guys want to do 20?
I'm fine with 15.
I'm fine.
Yeah, 15 is fine.
Okay. Let's see if I can do this properly again and not kick Laura out.
I was going to say, try not to kick anyone.
All right, everyone. Let's do this. Writing team. Woo! Ding, ding, ding. We did it, guys. Bring my mic back again. This time I remembered. Ish. How'd everyone do?
Finished editing my first chapter, finally.
Nice. Everyone else say while I actually figure out what I wrote.
I finished reading the chapter I was on, so.
I got 819 words, and I grew a pumpkin on my forest app.
Looks like I wrote 140, but that means I finished one chapter and started another. Only took 2 weeks.
Yay.
As I was writing it, sorry.
I was making thumbnails. No, I was just saying
I
I was
also
making
grab a
thumbnails
little
during
much.
I wrote 819, but as I was writing it, I was like, I don't think this needs to be in the book. I think this could be completely cut, but it's a first draft, so I'm just gonna write it.
Yeah.
I
I
don't think it adds to the story.
So much filler in my draft so far for the same reason, where it's like to get through a word sprint, I just wrote stuff and I'm like, edit it later. No one cares. That's a later problem.
That's what I'm telling myself, but I know I'm gonna kick myself later.
No, we always do. Like, present person is mad at past person, but past person couldn't have done it without the shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
But it's why I don't know if I'm going to draft again with placeholders, because I was so annoyed last time at myself.
I literally couldn't remember a character's name, but I didn't want to go back and look for it in that sprint, so I just made a comment and I put landlord's name in all caps, and I put comment. I was like, figure this out later.
Yeah. Names are fun. Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I actually used different names for him anyway, so it's going to be a mess trying to fix it.
All right, as promised, we're going to spill the tea on money, I guess, just because we got a bunch of questions. So while I scroll back to grab the previous ones, we might as well start here. Who wants to talk about book advances? And I'll scroll back while someone else does that.
I've never had one.
Well, but you know how anyone can jump in.
I have no money, period, so definitely don't ask me.
So I know somebody asked, can the publisher take it back? Or is it,
well, yeah, that's the one I'm trying to find.
Or is it free money? Well, I wouldn't say it's free money because you did work for it.
It's an advance on your sales.
It's like what they think you'll make off your book. But they're not going to take it. They're not going to be like, you did terrible, we'll take the money back. But something to keep in mind, though, is that if your book does do really bad and you have like a huge advance, like $1 million, and then your book sells bad, your next advance is not going to be $1 million. Unless you're a straight white male. Then maybe
you don't sell your next book at all. And that's the double-edged sword. Anyway.
When my husband's in the background and he heard you say that and he went, amen.
Well, the fan doesn't want to go back that far anyway. So yeah, I remember the same question. They can take back your advance if you mess up. Like if you don't deliver what you promised to deliver, but not if you sell poorly. If they agree to publish the book and they publish it, it's your money.
I guess that's a better way to put it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, they will, like, in your contract, you'll usually have like a clause that says, like, if you don't satisfactorily deliver your manuscript, that they can take the money back.
It's a pretty extreme case of one that I can think of where that happened, because it is rare. Was the guy that wrote Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. He got and he also wrote Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and then he got a 6-figure advance for another book, and he did not deliver an acceptable manuscript, and they went back and forth, and then they refused to publish what he turned in, and I guess he must have refused to write something else because they ended up suing him to return the advance, and that ended up being a news story. It was years ago at this point, but it's one of the biggest examples I can think of. Yeah. Although a publisher suing Lindsay Lohan right now for a book that she never delivered. So
why did they ever think that girl was going to deliver that?
Right?
That's why they put the clause in.
Do they not watch the reality show? Do they not know who they're dealing with?
Well, what's silly about that is like, why didn't they assign a ghostwriter to like go to her house and like write it for her?
If you watched her documentary with Oprah, you would know why, because it doesn't matter. They did the same thing with Oprah. Oprah had someone going to her house every day, trying to get her to film for that documentary, and she would not do it. She would not show up for filming. As I'm saying, if they would have just watched that, they'd have known that it was never going to happen. They would never get that from her. So
amazing.
Well, she like lives like permanently in like Dubai or something.
With like a prince or something.
It's like really random. When I found that out, I was like, what? Because she doesn't live in the United States anymore.
Yeah, she also owned that club in Greece or whatever.
Yeah, she has that too.
Have you looked at that club?
It's just for the show.
It's run down looking now. It's abandoned.
All right, we got this question. This is for my querying fam. Go off.
Oh, Lindsay. Wait. Lindsay and I did a collaboration about this. If you want to go watch them.
It's true. We did.
But as you can tell from Lindsay's maniacal laugh, she's already lost it.
It's true. You don't stay together. It's impossible. Especially the longer you're in there, man.
I feel like
yeah. I don't know, y'all. Hang in there. Remember that you're worth it no matter, and like don't take rejections personally. Write something else. What are the other things people always tell you? Work on another project. Self-care. It's gonna suck. Like it's gonna suck no matter what I tell you. You know? But like you can always, I don't know. Someone else, Lainey.
What Lindsay said. Yeah, I think working on something else would be helpful, just to take your mind off of it. Because at least like with all like my past projects, once I started the new project, I was like, I'm so excited to keep writing that. Yeah.
Yeah, that one works for submission too.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do.
That's the option I'm working on, the new thriller. I started it last summer before I went on submission with the Ivies because I knew I needed something else to concentrate on. So that's why I started it. So, we had a question here that Lindsay and Lizelle, you might. Not Lizelle, sorry, but too many L's. Lainey and Lindsay, bottom row, might have advice for this. I mean, I can offer tips from the mod angle, but I actually think like you guys have gone through it, and your advice would apply to pitch wars as well. So that's like a universal question. What do you think? Oh, it's smiling, Lainey.
Well, it's kind of just like querying. Like you really don't know how people are going to take it. So you just want to make sure that you read all the mentor bios because you don't want to like throw your shot away. Because I think with both Pitch Wars and Author Mentor Match, you can only submit to 4.
Yeah.
So you really need to research and find the best possible person that you think would connect with your manuscript.
My cat wants to steal my lunch. Sorry.
I think getting beta reads or CP reads was really valuable to me to get in. I know that like my books would never be what they were without those. So have some people look over your work and, make sure you're ready to actually put in the effort and change things and that kind of stuff. Because if you can do it with your critique partners or your beta readers, you'll be able to do it when you have a mentor. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I would like to
really lean into that whole. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. There's a delay. You can go ahead. I'll say afterwards.
Okay, I was just gonna say, really lean into the community because always around Pitch Wars time, always around Author Mentor Match time. There's so many people on Twitter, and you can always connect people through different hashtags, and then you can find people to read your work too. Because I mean, that's how I found one of my critique partners.
That's how we.
Is that how we? Because I feel like we knew each other though through AuthorTube, and then I was like, I'm gonna DM her and see what's up.
I think we knew each other, but it was that we both got into the same round of Author Mentor Match.
Yeah.
We were like, hey, and I was like, oh.
I think I told Alexa, I was like, I think I'm going to reach out to Lindsay.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
Sorry. I can answer the round question. The next one's going to be in January. But I'll have mentor info up in December. And Kevin, yeah, former mentor, did you have advice? Sorry, my cats are literally both attacking me because they want my sandwich.
I agree with Lainey that make sure you look into them, like who you want to submit to, because I will say that like I had certain things I was into that I put on my bio, and then I would get things that it felt like I was just like, oh, I need a fourth one, so I'll choose this guy. Because there were some that were so not like what I was requesting that it was like an automatic no, and like don't throw away your chance. You would rather go to someone that like actually you have a chance with. So just make sure you're actually looking into the bios and stuff like that.
And I would say too, oh sorry.
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, I know like from a lot of people in the community, like they wanted to go with like the big name flashy authors that were mentoring. And I would say like don't be afraid to go with someone who like you haven't heard of yet. You just read their bio and you really connect with them. Because like just because you have like a flashy book deal doesn't mean you're any more talented than someone who doesn't yet, who's still in the submission trenches or whatever. Yeah, don't just go with like the most popular because they're the most popular. Like really go for who best fits you.
I actually think that applies to when you're careering agents as well. I don't think you should go after just the big names because they're big names. You should go with people that you connect with.
Yeah. Go for the best fit for you.
That's the T.
I bet that was brilliant. Sorry I missed that. The cats were literally like they were knocking over the mic because I have turkey, and so I just
give them the turkey, Alexa. Just give them the turkey.
No, my cat stole half my sandwich yesterday. I'm still upset. Oh, cats. That was brilliant. Whatever you said. My advice, as the person who runs it, and I run the inbox, this is mostly so you stay on my good side. 2 things. Follow the directions, please. I'm so clear about how I want you to format your subject line, and none of it's complicated. It's exactly how you would query. I beg of you, please. Title of manuscript, genre in parentheses. It helps me sort the inbox. It helps us find your email, because often we'll be like, that one I was looking at, and they'll either remember your name or something, a word from the title of your book. And it's the only way to find it in the Gmail inbox is if you properly label your manuscript. Beg of you. And my second thing. Don't ask us if we received your manuscript, / if we've chosen yet, because meaning you'll either get an auto response, and if it's not working, I email everyone personally if I'm missing your materials. So if you don't hear from me, it's a good thing. Please. I love you. Please. I can't do it for like thousands of people.
And that's in practice anyway for querying, because you can't do that with an agent either.
So
I was going to say, I actually think that's great for querying as well. Like you need to learn how to follow basic instructions. Like for instance, I'll show my idiotic self. I sent a query once and misread it, and it said to add your first 10 pages, and I didn't. It was like auto rejected. Like, and you don't want to blow your chance, So just you have to be able to follow basic instructions, and we all make mistakes, but
So because like we're mentorship, like you're not ruled out because you mess something up, but it's just like administratively, if that's a word, administratively, that's a word. I just beg of you. It's just easier for me to manage if you follow the instructions. And actually this year is going to get more complicated, and I hope y'all are really good at following instructions, because we're going to have 3 email inboxes depending on your category, because last year I had to forward 1,000 emails, and that's never happening again. So, it's great. And there's also, your manuscript should be done for Pitch Wars and Author Mentor Match. It's a full manuscript mentor. They're both full manuscript mentoring programs, so you should definitely be done. Same thing with querying.
Somebody asked if agents take video queries, such as writer, author presents a video of their book or manuscript. I've never heard of that. I would not do that.
No.
Querying
author tuber, that freaks me out.
Query formats exist for a reason. Like it's the accepted industry norm. It's just the way that they like to receive the information and everyone's accustomed to it. So
yeah, I would not do that.
Pitchwars does have a website, pitchwars.org.
Do you guys know of anybody who still sends like snail mail queries? Because I see some agencies are still open to that, and I'm like,
some of the really old school ones, but it's only people like I saw Sterling Lord, I think, still accepts them for Sterling Lord for like the more kind of entrenched a person is, the more likely, but most have switched.
Yeah, I've seen some when I queried my debut, and I like the ones that only accepted it, I immediately decided not to query at all.
Yeah, same.
So then I was just like
maybe this is my own bias, but I just feel like if an agency is not on the up and up to like be advanced enough to take emails, I just don't know if that's like advanced enough to want to be represented by them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if they're still taking snail mail, but they're also taking email, then fine. Maybe some people, but like if you're not even on the up and up that you can't do that, I don't know. It just seems a little
same
questionable.
Hard same.
Oh, right.
Who has the time to like print out their manuscript and just send it?
Or the money, to be
you
honest.
might get rejected. Like spend $40 at Office Max, and have thing printed out, and then get rejected.
It's another level. It's another level of gatekeeping, and it's been recently because I had a friend who was in the query trenches. Like I want to say it was like 2013 or 2012, and it was only snail mail then. So it's only been email a very short amount of time, and it was just another way for them to prevent getting tons and tons of people who shouldn't be querying. It was only for like serious people with serious matches, and I've heard like that one complaint of moving to email is that now anyone can just query anytime and send you garbage, and it's a lot more for them to sift through. So but it's
the access to to more writers.
100%.
You don't have to spend money,
Exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of access, there was this question. Oh gosh, you can also go fast. AMM is open to everyone as long as your manuscript is in English, because our mentors write and mentor in English, and is intended for the English-speaking market, whether that's the US or the UK. Anyone's welcome, and we have mentees all over the world. So, yay. All right. Do we want to do another sprint as my cat continues to try to attack me?
I mean, mine's doing the same thing, but he thinks I'm using my laptop, my work laptop, so he's just at it for the warmth.
Someone asked how polished the manuscript should be for
that's a good
Pitchwars.
question.
I feel like I submitted to Pitchwars with my third draft. Maybe it was my second one. Like after I wrote the first draft and then I revised it and polished it up. Then that was the one that I sent in.
It's definitely not
But
your
it
first
should
draft.
be right. But it should definitely not be your first draft.
You should have had a round of betas or CPs or something and done edits from that, I think, at least.
At least, I recommend at least one self-editing pass, essentially, yes. Because most of our mentors, mentorship isn't copy editing. It's not the same as hiring an editor. It's developmental is what most mentors want to do. So you don't want it to be a situation where there's this barrier to entry. They feel that they have to line edit or copy edit your manuscript. It's going to stop them the same way it might stop an agent. So not perfection. The aim is not perfection, however. And also some mentors check their profiles. For AMM, I have them specify the editing that they're willing to do. Some of them line edit. So some are more than willing to help you shine something up that is maybe in a second draft. But others prefer more polished work. It just depends.
Someone asked if you can submit to author or mentor match if you do a pitch contest like DV Pit. I mean, as far as I know, right? I mean, that's
yes, we actually love to help our mentees do DV Pit. We now schedule our rounds better around DV Pit. We had a few that overlapped and we learned our lesson. So we try to go ahead of it so that any mentees who are ready can do DV Pit after being chosen. Some have to wait for another one. So there's always one in the spring and there's always one in the fall. So some of our mentees did the spring one who had been chosen a month before, and some just did or are going to do the fall one in a few weeks. So It just depends. When you talk to your mentor, we actually ask on the application if you're interested, if like you're looking at DBPIT or PitMat, if you have a goal, and yeah, then we help.
Alexa, someone asked if you're familiar with the Publishers Marketplace website and if it's worth.
I love Publishers Marketplace.
It's so expensive though. It is
very expensive. So I think if you're actively querying, it's worth doing it for 1 month for $25. That said, talk to your friends. If you know anyone that has it, just ask them to look up things for you. I subscribe yearly now because I found it such a useful tool, especially with mentorship. I help other people query all the time, and I'm willing to pay for it as a tool, but I never used it when I was querying. I just love data. I love data. Yeah.
I mean, I just like looking at it. Like, I like seeing like what agents have sold. Well, to be honest, I feel like it's another gatekeeping thing because it is so expensive.
It's too expensive, honestly.
$25 a month is nuts. It's cuckoo bananas. That's what we're saying.
Cuckoo banana pants. So it's like $275 a year because I do the yearly and you save a little. But that's why like any mentee in AMM, I look up people for them on PM all the time. Like, so sometimes it's finding that person who will look stuff up for you. But
I'm going to be making a note of this. So
everyone hit up Alexa.
I love.
I do. She's helped me query the whole time. I just mooch off her.
I love looking at people on PM. So, but it is expensive. But if you feel like you need it, you can do 1 month while you're querying just to build your list, if you want.
Sometimes what I did is I would go on Twitter and I would like search the agent, and then I would look at the top tweets, which usually ended up being like deal announcements and stuff. So then sometimes I could use that as a free way to check if an agent had like done any recent deals or things like that, when I didn't want to pay. I only paid right at the tail end of querying for my debut. So when like I had gotten an offer, because then it was like more important to me to be able to see what the deals looked like. But I only paid for 1 month because it is very expensive, and it's even more expensive when you're Canadian. So
oh yeah,
it's like $35.
Damien went to Simmons, and they require you when you go to Simmons to buy it every year.
Wow.
Well, because did he do the publishing program there? Is that why?
He did the. I don't.
No, he did the young adult.
Young adult.
Writing for
That's why they asked them.
Yeah, that's what it was. I couldn't remember the name of it.
It's their MFA, right? In children's literature.
Yeah, and they require you to buy it every year.
I know people who have done that one. So, yeah. Boston. Oh, this question came up. Yeah, so I kind of surround myself with fam unintentionally. Kevin was a mentor, and Lindsay and Lainey are both mentees. So, and I will pull in all of you at one point if you want to be. I can take a no, but I am persistent. Honestly, the next like a little sneak peek, I have started recruiting mentors for the next one, and I have some that are like fire, and I'm very excited. So.
Let's just get me an agent first.
Yes, I know. I'm trying. No, and I am helping. Like, a lot of mentees are querying this fall, so things are happening. Hopefully, so. Oh well. Sorry to keep on this topic. Can you explain how AMM works exactly? Yes, it is a pure mentorship program. It's just mentorship. So every round we have, I'm trying to remember my own program. I now cap it between 40 and 50 mentors. I don't like to go over 50. It makes the program unwieldy. And it also makes it hard. It makes it harder for me to manage, basically. So, and they put up wish lists on our website, the mentors, and they are across categories and genres. We just expanded into adult last year, so we're going to continue to do that. I am trying to get some picture book mentors. It's tough because it's limited by my own networks and experiences. And you basically, it's like querying. You submit your book, you pick, there's an application form, you pick 4 mentors that you're interested in, you send in your query and your pages, and the mentors evaluate materials over a period of 2 weeks. And then each mentor picks one mentee, a manuscript that they want to work on. They help them with edits and then help them query. And no timelines. Sometimes I know some mentees, they work with their mentor over the course of a year to get their manuscript where it needs to be. Others, they do one developmental pass and they query in 3 months. But it completely varies depending on the mentor and the mentee relationship and kind of where they are. And some work on multiple manuscripts, others only work on one. It varies widely. But I try my best to recruit mentors who do the thing. And there's like a community. And so like I often, like, sometimes because mentors just get busy, like after, like, let's say it's after a year, another mentor might come in and help a mentee on a new manuscript because their mentor is off, like, busy with publishing stuff. So I keep the community going as best I can. So, and then my favorite thing is helping people query. So I want mentees to come to me. Do it. It's like I get an adrenaline high off of it. So
Yeah, you do.
I love querying. I know I'm weird.
That is weird.
Well, it's easier when it's not you. Like, to be perfectly like, it's an easy thing to say. I'm being kind of a jerk, so it's great. Word sprint at 3.
That's good.
Okay. Last things we want to talk about for 4 minutes, and also, shall we do a 20 perhaps?
Shock.
Sure.
Shock.
I'm shocked.
You're absolutely appalled.
Whatever.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom really.
Bathroom away.
My cats have calmed down. That's the good news. So
There's a lot of people in the chat. I'd been kind of responding to some of them and asking about where you can find people to do, like, have beta readers and to have critique partners and stuff. And so a couple of things that I was, like, recommending, and I don't know if you guys wanted to add to this. I definitely know that there's a great writing community on Twitter. You can do the hashtag writing community. There's all other hashtags, I'm sure. And then also, I think here on AuthorTube is one of the best places to meet people. Is where I've met most of my writing friends. And you don't have to be a person who creates content to be active in the AuthorTube community. You can, I think one of the best ways to meet people is in things like this, a live stream where there's a chat and you can talk to each other, and also make comments of people's videos is a really great place where you can comment on other people's comments and make connections through that. And that's where I think a lot of us have found our beta readers and critique partners, is through social media. I think Instagram has a really active writing community as well. I'm just not as active on the writing aspect of Instagram. I'm more just like put pictures of my dog on my Instagram. So I don't know if you guys could speak to Instagram or anything else you guys would recommend.
I found most of mine on Twitter, and like some of that was just like people I got to know and like chatting about stories. But like sometimes I would literally just tweet, hey, I'm looking for beta readers, and I'd say a little blurb of my story. And then the thing that I always like specify I did is I would exchange the first chapter only first to see if we like liked each other's stories, we liked each other's critique styles, because in the past I had been burned in like reading a full book and it just not being subjectively my style. And I just feel like when you're not into a book, it's hard for you to give constructive feedback to that person because like you just subjectively don't like it. So definitely if you're like finding betas through like Facebook or Twitter callouts and you're not really familiar with their work, to exchange a very small sample to begin with.
Yeah.
Use the hashtag CP matchup. Isn't on Twitter? Isn't that one? That's a specific hashtag for finding people to read your work.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's great.
And AMM also has been running those. In fact, that's a reminder to myself. I haven't done one in a while. We've done 2 so far. We'll do another one before the next round, and that'll be hashtag AMM CP match. We'll definitely do another one. And generally, join the, I think we already kind of said this, but join the Pitch Wars community, whether it's hashtag or I'm sure they have Facebook groups, and ditto AMM. Even if you don't get into those or aren't applying to those, they're really good, solid, ongoing communities where you will find aspiring writers who are looking for connection, community, CPs, etc. So join both of them. AMM definitely has a Facebook group. I think Pitch Wars Hopefuls has one as well, for sure. Yeah. And then there are the hashtags on Twitter. So they're both really good.
And Pitch Wars is going on like right now. So like now is like the time. Like I
Even
think they
if
just
you're not
posted
going to
their
submit because you just found out about it, join the community.
Yeah.
Because and then AMM will open in January. I think some people missed it earlier. Mid-January, and matches will be made by February. That is my current plan because DV Pitch should be in March or April, and I kind of structured it around that. So there was one more question I saw that I kind of wanted to answer before I
saw Camille was asking you something that I thought you could answer about if someone offers rep and you have other.
I saw that. I can do this very quickly. 2 weeks is standard on the long end. 1 week is standard in the middle. I would never do less than a week. And if you do more than 2 weeks, it should only be because there's a major holiday that falls in the period. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, 4th of July. But 2 weeks is a right down the middle standard, 10 days to 2 weeks. And any agent who gives you lip about it is not a good agent, and you wouldn't want to sign with them anyway. There are some awful agents who are real jerks about it. So
my agent.
Go ahead, Kev.
Just really quick. My agent, when she's like, I'm offering representation. And she's like, before you say anything, I'm gonna give you 2 weeks to think about it. She's like, even if you were going to accept me, even if I'm the only offer.
I was going to say, I don't know if it came up in the chat talking about it, but if you are waiting to hear back from other people and you have been offered rep, you should email the people that you are waiting to hear from and say, hey.
You nudge them.
Yeah, you send them a nudge saying that you've been offered representation, and then that will give them a chance to respond, and it'll actually kind of like move you up on the.
Usually. I have formats, like forms for nudges on my website, which I just remembered I was going to redesign that page so it looked way cuter, and I forgot to finish it. I will do that because it's really kind of a janky page. But I have a PDF you can download.
I think someone asked earlier, actually, Alexa, what you use for your website. They said they were using Wix, and they wanted to know what you were using.
I am a little intense. I have mixed feelings. I use self-hosted WordPress, and on top of that, I pay for elegant themes, and I use the layout Divi. It's a lot. It's amazing, right?
It's so good.
I subscribed to Elegant Themes in the dark ages when it only cost $39.99, and I am grandfathered into that price, and I'm pretty sure it's way more expensive now.
Yeah, it's like $2 something. I paid, because I'm Canadian, I paid like $300 for that theme. I believe it's like $249 Canadian, and you get it for a lifetime. I paid for it because at the time I was.
Oh, you got a lifetime license. See, I'm yearly.
Oh,
when but it's only $40 because I'm grandfathered into like the 2013 price.
Oh,
but you're going to pay more in the long run, right? If you're doing it yearly, than if you.
Oh, I didn't even know they had switched to a forever price.
Yeah, so. I paid $300 for a lifetime, so and I have access to lifetime updates. But yeah, I did that because I was designing websites at the time, or I thought I was going to, and then I couldn't get anywhere. Anyway,
Lizelle, let me help you. I can hook you up. Authors need websites all the time, and most of them have no clue what they're doing.
This is awesome.
If I had more skills and time, I would do it, but I don't. Skills or time. I feel like I'm just moderately decent enough for my own site, but I have limits. That's how I see it. But yeah, that's what I use. But if you're not liking Wix, if you're feeling limited, I do feel Squarespace is a slight graduation up. I think it comes with its own annoyances. I'm doing a Squarespace for work, and it makes me want to bang my head against the wall because I'm used to self-hosted. I'm used to being able to code things the way I want them, but alas, I digress. That's what I use, but it means I have to pay for my web host. I have to like keep the security up to date. And when you are on something like Wix, they do all of that for you, which is kind of nice. It's built into the price. Yep. Yes, we are doing a sprint. I'm just chatty. I'm so sorry.
We did have 5 after, so we have 1 minute.
And I still want to answer
I would say, Alexa, you'll learn if you ever promise the time you're going to start sprinting in the sprint, people will hold you to that.
Well, they should.
They'll call you out if you don't do it.
Yeah.
So
if you wait too long, are we going to sprint again?
We're going to do it. And then I will answer that question I saw that I found interesting later. Hold on. I just want to like remember what it was. There was something about like debuting with the right book. This one, we're going to come back to this after the sprint because I like that question. Okay, now we're gonna sprint. 3:05. It's fine. We're not late. We're gonna do it right now. Okay, 1 second.
Are we doing 20?
We're doing 20. At least I still want to.
Okay.
Okay.
print up. Oh, look, there's Lizelle's beautiful face.
Sorry. Now my cat is on my mic cord. Thank you, cat. He's very cute, though. We like it. All right. How did everyone do?
I finished reading another chapter.
Nice. Also, y'all's eyes are not deceiving you. Lindsay had to depart, so we have lost her. Hold on. I need to tally. I always fall behind.
I continued editing my second chapter. I'm actually almost done. This one needed less work than the first.
Yay. All right, I passed 500 words for the day. Let me do the actual math. Because I'm bad at it. I use my calculator, yes.
I feel like I'm just puking out words today, and they're not very good, but I just need to get it done. I hate drafting. Yeah. I prefer editing every day. I prefer editing, so I know, Lainey.
Mood. But ooh, look at these numbers in the chat. 563, 452, amazing. 405. I did 218. I'll take it. I'm trying to rate. Well, no, I shouldn't. Spoilers. I'm trying so hard to get to my murder, guys. You don't even know. 100 pages in. She needs to die. Yeah.
No. Sometimes that's the way it goes. In my horror, I have like a murder that needs to happen, and I'm like, when can you happen? I was like, you gotta happen before the midpoint.
It's all this build, but you need to build up in a lot of like in my last one, structurally it made sense to kill her quickly. It worked. This one it just doesn't work, and I'm like, oh no. I know, Laura, last time I said that you were real worried for my soul, and you were like, you should use Story Genius.
Yes, I was. I just think there's some really good tips in Story Genius that could be helpful, but I know that you have a resistance to craft books.
I do, thank you. I'll still read some of them. It's just if I get too structured, my brain kind of freaks out, so I lose.
Yeah, I think what I like most about Story Genius is she gives like some exercises that I think are helpful in figuring out where to start your story. And some pre-work to do, not plotting, but rather like kind of like teasing out scenes that happen to your character prior to the book starting, but that have to do with the story that's going to happen. I know she explains it way better, but I think that they're really helpful in starting your story in the right place, and then also being able to understand some of like why your character is how they are the first day of your book. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And I didn't do any of the exercises in Story Genius, but I like pulled all the like big things that she did, and like some of the stuff I just did in my head. I don't like to write things I won't put in the book. So I just like did them in my head, or I'd like write a paragraph because I was like, I'm not about to write out a full scene. That's
I didn't do that either. I more so used it to like come up with a couple of scenes in my head and maybe jot some notes down about it. So yeah, like you take from it how you want, but I think it was just really helpful to think about it that way, like stuff about the character prior to the book starting.
Yeah. Question for you, Laura.
Yeah.
Craft book fan.
Help with grammar stuff. I would just do oh gosh, I would, to be honest, most of them aren't very helpful with grammar stuff. I'm trying to think of like that typical book that like you use in college.
Elements of Style.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, and maybe honestly, I hate to say this too, but there are a lot of good like teachers on YouTube that do videos on. I've considered doing them, but like it just gives me so many flashbacks of teaching grammar that I just don't know if I can go there. Yeah. But like, for example, okay, I hate to like blast this, but I'm reading Steering the Craft, and she has a whole section on how important punctuation is, and she makes a bunch of punctuation errors in it. So I was very frustrated with that. She doesn't understand the difference between a subordinating conjunction and a coordinating conjunction. So I don't really have a lot of, I would just say the typical, and in all honesty, you can like Grammar Girl on online is also a good one, and I would just kind of go that route, to be completely honest. But that you know who you're like getting that advice from, that's what I would care more about. I don't really have any books in grammar in particular, so.
Yeah, Elements of Style is kind of like the big granddaddy one. And it's still accurate, of course, except some of the things they really harp on have not changed, but kind of certain conventions have definitely shifted in the sense of the things we care a lot about have changed slightly. But yeah, I read that in college.
It's pretty typical for like any sort of English or writing journalism, any of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Read it as a journalism major. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess I can talk about that question that was up before. It was a question about your debut novel, and what if you have a book that you've written and it's different from what you usually write and you really love it, but is it smart to push it as your debut if you're not going to write another book like it? I think that's a really interesting question. And I think it differs person to person. Does anyone else have any like big thoughts on that?
I'm going to let Kevin go because you like will write in like different genres, and I pretty much write in the same genres.
So I talked to my agent about this, and because I am interested in writing whatever, and she told me that, you know, if you debut in a book that, let's say I debuted my YA contemporary, that the expectation is for your next couple of books at least to be also YA contemporaries, that genre hopping right away is not seen as something that like publishing doesn't want you to do that. So like maybe like if you like Adam Silvera, for instance, his are like a certain genre for the first, I think, 3 or 4, and then after that he goes on to do a fantasy. But they don't suggest that you genre hop right away. That publishers will expect you to do at least a few in the same genre.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes sense too, because if you sell, like, say you want to sell like a standalone and you get a 2-book deal, so then you have 2 books that are going to need to be similar to each other in the same genre, and then you'll have an option, and the option will also be for something similar. So you potentially have 3 books lined up that are all have an expectation of being in a similar genre. And so you might end up kind of being contractually bound to doing a certain kind of book, or how to say this, as in like, if your contract says you are going to do 2 books and they are going to be YA fantasy, then there are going to be 2 books and they're going to be YA fantasy.
That's one of those instances where if you don't deliver, they could take back your advance because you are contractually obligated to do a certain thing. Someone in chat said that J.K. Rowling was an example, but I don't think you should ever use her as an example because she's
such an outlier. The reason she dipped on middle grade is because she was a multimillionaire and could. And then she got to write her adult mysteries that she wanted to write,
which did bad until it came out that she wrote them. Those books were not selling well until it came out that she was the one that wrote them.
I feel the same. It's really tricky when you write something that feels like a total outlier. And what I encourage there is, if you really want to debut with it, you have to come up with other similar ideas that you can write as well. It can't be a one-off unless you get really, really lucky in that you end up, let's say you end up with a flexible editor who's like, yeah, cool, you want to pivot? I'm into your pivot too. This will satisfy your contract, but that doesn't always happen. And it is difficult for brand building. It can actually, even if your publisher's into it, it can shoot you in the foot with readers. There's a couple of like, I'm just always like curious and watching case studies, like watching what authors do. And there's a couple of people who I've seen shift, and I don't know how their second books are going to do, and I'm curious to see, and I'm just going to watch and wait, and I won't tell you who any of them are. But meaning I'm always curious how that works. And there are a couple of cases I can think of where there was a pivot and it didn't work out. So you need to be committed to 2 to 3 books in whatever that genre is.
There are people that genre hop, but it's usually, like I said, like after you've already done like 4 or 5 books in one genre, And then
you're
try out a new genre. Yeah.
Or if they do genre hop, there are common elements that thread across their books, whether it's a writing style or they're all character driven with speculative elements, but the speculative elements change.
That's actually, even with Adam Silvera, even though he's genre hopped, like they still kind of like, sci-fi, and now his are like urban fantasy, so they're all still grounded in the real world.
Yeah.
It's not like a complete, like he went from YA contemporary to high fantasy. Like the genre hopping is, it's difficult. It can be done, but it is difficult.
Yeah. For me personally, first of all, I knew I was committed to at least 2 sci-fis, which is what I did. But I was like, soapy. I'm soapy. That can be my thread, and that's kind of what I've used. But also, I did 2 in 1, and now I consider my new one a pivot, though. And I might lose some readers, and you have to accept that, basically. But I hope to gain some who would never pick up a sci-fi book. So, pros and cons.
Exactly.
And I guess a kind of outlier situation would be, for example, if you're going to write under different genre in like a pen name, like Zoraida Cordova also does Zoe Castile. So she does adult romance under that name. And then she does her like fantasy YA stuff under Zoraida.
Here's one of my favorite questions. No, if you have an adult, it's not YA. Your main character has to be a teenager. There are other things we can discuss about what makes YA. And also, magical realism is a very specific thing. It's a Latinx subgenre, I suppose. It's fabulism if you're not Latinx, but what you describe sounds like it might be urban fantasy or potentially paranormal. Depends on how you use the magic. If it's grounded, it might just be urban fantasy. Or I'm sorry. We call it contemporary fantasy now.
What is it called now?
Contemporary fantasy. It's because for a while publishing wouldn't publish urban fantasy, so we gave it a new name.
I had heard
urban
fantasy was like major cities, and contemporary was places that were not like New York or Chicago or.
These are things that I feel like as a writer, I don't need to worry. I mean, I guess you do if you're.
The YA novels I've seen do it. It's been a wink, nod workaround for YA being too rigid with genre.
Yeah,
which is the way
urban fantasy. So.
I know a lot that have been considered urban fantasy that do not take place in major cities. That has usually just been a word that was used to encompass paranormal that is in a contemporary setting. So I actually like contemporary fantasy. That works for me because that's the kind of stuff that like I write contemporary, but I also have ideas for, I guess, like what is currently called urban fantasy. But I like the idea of calling it contemporary fantasy. That seems to encompass it a little bit better. What a lot of people are doing. So because the urban part, I actually just don't like the word urban. The way it's employed a lot, I don't really care for that. So yeah. So
somebody said, is there such thing as a rural fantasy? True Blood, I guess.
Yeah, that's the point. Well, but that's the thing is that True Blood is often considered urban fantasy. So
I think they would just call it contemporary.
Yeah.
Paranormal. I like contemporary fantasy as a catch-all, but it definitely rose to prominence in YA specifically because YA decided it hated all urban fantasy and paranormal, and those terms were the kiss of death in your query.
I know they don't like to say paranormal.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's semantics.
That's why I'm like,
genre. It was my favorite genre when I got to YA.
Yeah.
There's a ghost, but it's not paranormal.
But it's coming back.
It is.
I know a lot of people on the DL who are working on vampire books, so it's happening. And witch books. Excited.
Yeah, a lot of witch books.
Also, Lizelle already sold hers.
Yeah.
On the DL and also not on the DL.
Somebody said, what about suburban fantasy?
Right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, now you're just getting, like, it's also silly, When I
think of suburban fantasy, I think of practical magic.
That is, I guess now we call that fabulism. I don't know how that was classed at the time. I actually, because that's a novel with a capital N, I think it was just a speculative novel.
Yeah. I think my piece on genres is you should use what is being conventionally used in the market. And even if you think like a rural fantasy sounds more like on par, like if the agents and the market are using contemporary and urban fantasy primarily as terms, it's best to use the term that the agent will recognize.
Yeah.
Than to
Yeah.
poet stuff.
I like what Devesha Grapefry just said in chat. For a long time, I thought urban fantasy would be fantasy with black people, like how they labeled black urban romance. So I was reading urban fantasies, like, where are the black people at?
And there were none.
Yeah.
Or they were there and they like died very quickly. Or they
don't reveal until the third book in the series that the character's black, and you're like, there's nothing that indicated this character was black.
A lot of
Did you say that he was tan?
No, because Laura read the same series and she's like, "Did you pick up on this?" And I just missed it. I was like, "No, there was no indication this character was black until the third book."
Yeah.
What series? Oh, we're not spilling. I got you.
Right in the private chat. So there are several that are like that I know of. That I'm sure it's like one of those, but there are quite a few series where people like to post series let you know who is who, and
revisionist history.
Yeah, I believe in that. Your intention doesn't matter. Once your book is out, your book is out, and whatever you got on the page is what you got on the page. And if your intention wasn't realized, then too bad. That's writing.
This one, no, they are not the same. Magical realism or fabulism, it's basically a contemporary story with a magical twist that is never explained or contextualized, whereas urban fantasy is like, there's vampires, I'm a wizard. Like the Dresden Files is urban fantasy because Harry's a wizard and there's werewolves and vampires. It's like there's logic and like rules to the magic, but in fabulism or realism, it's like, we live in this world, and I don't know. I'm so bad at
magic without rules or explanation.
Yeah, it just kind of exists in the world, and nobody questions it.
Yeah.
And otherwise, it's like, it's like a classic. I can do words. Magical realism, like Water for Chocolate. It's a regular story, except when she cooks, she can like make people feel things and do things with her food, and it's never explained. It's just an accepted part of the story.
Yeah.
My only context there is the movie, but that's definitely not magical realism.
And I retract. It can have rules, but not explicitly explained rules, as in a hard magic system.
Oh, another good example is Imaginary Girls by Nova Rensuma. It's like, it's kind of like that particular one. It's like, is there something supernatural going on in this weird town? And it's literally never explained. So
is
all the examples I'm thinking of are like the classics, like 100 Years of Solitude.
Well, what about like Saw Kill Girl?
I have not read Saw Kill Girls.
I wouldn't consider Saw Kill Girls. Well, partially because it's not Latinx based.
Genre is so weird.
Yeah, I don't mean
But
I mean fabulism.
Yeah, I'm not fabulism.
I feel like it's more of a soft magic system fantasy.
Yeah. You can also just call something speculative. That's cool. Genres are confusing.
I guess I'm like, I don't.
I would disagree.
I feel like it had rules that were explained. Like they explained how the generations thing worked, like the curse thing.
Oh yeah.
And they explained how like the rules, how the man could do stuff.
But the island has a point of view, and I was just like,
yeah. I was thinking of Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessel, who's an adult literary writer. That was not considered sci-fi. I mean, I think it is, but that's just a speculative thriller.
But yeah, speculative is grounded in things that could actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I feel like that's it. You know,
Or
like,
are you saying that Groundhog Day in Purgatory could not happen?
so yeah, because like when I think of speculative, it's a lot of times, often it's science fiction that's on Earth in the future. So
somebody said Saw Kill Girls would be horror. I wouldn't consider that a straight up horror though either.
I think it considers itself horror.
YA is very bad.
Yeah, marketed.
Or
no one knows what it is.
Kind of, I don't know. It's hard to tell. I feel like when people started getting more into horror and it became more of a thing, suddenly it was like a shifting of thinking about it as horror. But I feel like when it first came out, it was just fantasy. And then I don't know. It's hard to tell. But like when looking for YA horror, I feel like people will point you to Wilder Girls and Saw Kill Girls.
Yeah.
Because we have no horror.
Yeah, because there's not in the genre. So I feel like people are.
Well, horror have all kinds of different types of horror. So if you're looking at movies as a horror film buff here, I know Lizelle is too. There's all kinds of like different genres of horror. You have body horror, you have spooky horror.
What's the one I'm thinking about?
Horror, I mean,
the Maypole one.
Oh yeah.
Midsummer.
Yeah, like it's kind of got a midsummer.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the hot thing right now. Like, and which is good because like I can handle Midsummer, which means it's not horror because I don't watch horror.
I had to look away from Midsummer.
Oh my gosh, Alexa!
I
a lot.
Live for it.
I saw Midsummer with my parents. That was a mistake.
That was a mistake, lady.
No,
I like that.
They were going to be eating those pies.
Oh my god!
I haven't watched it yet. We're saving it for this October.
I just want to say that I like what Elaine called it, folk horror. I like that.
Oh,
that's cute.
I recommend you read the screenplay, Laura. I read the screenplay before I watched the movie because I was worried it would be too scary, and I'm actually really glad I read the whole thing and thus knew all the spoilers.
I just didn't like Hereditary, which is also
I loved it.
I didn't like Hereditary, but I did like Midsummer.
Yeah, it's totally different from Hereditary.
Hereditary was just like I couldn't take it. It was too much.
And that's the thing. Hereditary has all those jump scares. And Midsummer is not like that at all.
That's not what I didn't like. I thought it was too depressing.
It was just like,
I thought it was what?
I mean, it's in Sweden, right? That's where they're at, right?
Oh, don't watch Midsummer. Oh yeah, no, don't watch Midsummer if you thought Hereditary was too depressing.
Too depressing. Like
there are depressing parts of Midsummer, yeah.
Yeah,
but I mean, cults.
I don't really care for that. Cults
Again,
are different though.
I read the screenplay.
It's not the cult part of the that's not the depressing part. There is some trauma stuff. Very
I like trauma first 30 seconds into the movie.
Yeah, I'm a highly sensitive person, and I just can't take things that are really deeply
maybe
depressing.
I feel like Midsummer is less grief heavy. I think that's the difference.
I don't know. I agree with that.
I don't know. Maybe I don't think it was that. I mean, like
10 minutes of Midsummer.
Yeah,
read
it's
the
like intense.
I prefer the screenplay to the movie, which I know is insane. I think Ari Aster should write a book because I found some of the language in the screenplay really impactful. And then the movie, I liked it, but it was slightly disappointing in that sense.
The thing with Midsummer is that even though it's like not as grief heavy later on, like that first 10 minutes really sets the tone for the whole movie.
Fair.
I think that's what it is. It's like the grief isn't through the whole thing, but when it is there, it hits you so hard because it is so like there.
They're both pole heavy.
That's messed up.
Too
Get out of
dark.
Too soon.
Ooh, man. Anyway.
Yeah. Yay, horror. I hope horror becomes a big thing.
Funny.
She says selfishly.
I saw Midsummer with a friend and she loathed it and I liked it. So that was kind of funny. But I knew what to expect. I honestly think that makes a difference. But yeah.
You know what? Speaking of horror movies, a really okay one. It was like a 2 out of 5 was Circle, and it has so much like political commentary.
Wait,
which one are you talking about? Because there's The Circle and there's
The Circle, Lainey. That's what I thought of.
I was thinking of like it's like an indie one.
So there's Circle and then there's The Circle. So Circle is the one where they're like in a circle and they have to like vote on who gets killed.
Yes, that one.
Yes.
That's a good one.
The ending, I did not see the ending coming in that movie. It has a lot of social commentary. I still only gave it a 2 out of 5 though.
I mean, it's pretty low budget, but like
I actually recommend it's worth watching. I thought it was better than some other horror movies I've seen.
To give you an idea of what I like, so like I don't like jump scare, like
I love it all.
Horror. But I loved, and this is more like supernatural, but The Orphanage ruined my life, and everyone should watch it if they can handle it. It's Spanish supernatural suspense. But it's one of the most horrific movies I've ever seen.
Well, sign me up. What's it called? I don't think I've seen that.
The Orphanage.
The Orphanage. It's horrific because the thing that happens, and when you get to the twist, it has stuck with me.
I think
I like movies that do that really mess with your head.
you should watch Circle then, because I actually think that it has a lasting effect.
It's on Netflix, right?
And then I love The Haunting of Hill House for that reason, because it was psychological. It was all about characters and emotions.
Okay, I'm gonna suggest one. I always suggest it to people. It's on Prime. It's called Coherence, and it's
That's on my list. That's on my list.
It's on like a dinner. It's like a dinner party trope where things start happening during the dinner party, and it's so good. It's so good. I love it. I have so many inside jokes with other people because of that movie.
You know what's a really good one? Has anyone seen the movie Creep? Because that movie, it will haunt you. It's so uncomfortable. It's
so uncomfortable.
Most uncomfortable any movie I've ever seen.
And then, of course, has everyone seen Ready or Not?
Yes.
Yes. I actually liked it.
I like that one.
Yeah. I did not like it.
I was right, because didn't I suggest you watch it?
Yes, you suggested I watch it. I was so annoyed.
Didn't your boyfriend like it?
I loved it.
I don't know. I thought it was like, I can't think of like the word, but like the thing with the girl, and she's like, you know, she's like offbeat, and she wears her Chucks, and she's got a baseball bat. It was just like too much for me.
I loved it.
Have you guys seen Would You Rather?
No.
No, I don't think so.
That one. That one has eye horror in it.
I know what kind of person you are.
Wait, what movie did I hate?
I love all horror.
I love the Happy Death Day duology.
Oh yeah,
I have not seen either of them. Do not spoil it. But
I've been trying to get you to watch it forever.
Laura, did you watch that trailer for Freaky that came out?
Yeah.
That movie looked so good.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
You know what?
Hold on.
I just watched I'm Thinking of Ending Things with Damien. Hated it so much. It was one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
That's on my list. I don't know how I'm gonna feel.
I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
It's
I hated it.
Charlie Kaufman, which means you're either gonna love or hate it.
It was trying so hard to be like, we're smart and you have to think about things, and just like.
So it was the Charlie Kaufman movie, yes.
Wait, which one? What are we talking about?
I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Netflix. He also did Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, an adaptation.
I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Lainey.
Okay.
Is the name of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just came out.
I just saw someone talking about that on one of the horror channels that I follow.
Ooh, somebody's talking about Lovecraft Country.
I want to see that. It looks really good.
It's really good. I love it.
I have feelings, but they're not worth going into. I don't know if I just don't like creatures, and I don't know if I can.
Yeah,
I really don't like creatures.
Yeah, creature heavy.
They freak me out.
I am fine with all things.
And that's the thing. That's why I'm a bad horror movie person. I just didn't grow up watching them, so there are a ton of subgenres I just won't watch.
Yeah. Dude, you need to get into it, Alexa. You're missing out so much. Every year, my husband and I do 31 Days of Halloween, where we watch a scary movie, or it could be like a family Halloween movie every day of October. And it's like our favorite time of year, and we do it. So I will give you all kinds of recommendations, Alexa.
You're correct. I did not like Stranger Things. Good job.
I didn't like Stranger Things either. So I don't know. I
dropped off of it. I think it's more like,
I watched
it's a sci-fi horror.
It just did nothing for me.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like horror, but
right now I'm watching Raised by Wolves on HBO. Weird. Sci-fi.
I saw the description of that. It seemed very weird.
It's weird. I don't know how I feel. I watched 2 episodes last night. So
Laura and I watched a horror movie once about like a weird cult on an island. Laura, what was that movie called?
That sounds great.
Where like, I don't know, it was terrible. I just remember this one part where they cranked someone's brain out.
Oh yeah, that was a Netflix.
Oh, that's gonna be hard pass for me.
And it was so bad. It was not.
Let me just tell you, like, I basically accidentally went to a Saw premiere. That was a time. I went to the Saw 4 premiere because my friend worked for Lionsgate. I was like, how bad could it be? Mistakes were made. It was in 3D. I closed my eyes.
Like Saw movies. I'm not a big person.
The only first 3. I think the only first 3 of the Saw are good.
I watch all of them because I want to see them all, and I like when they go out like that. But yeah, like there's a certain amount of Saw movies before it's like
the first one was quite brilliant because it was psychological and it was like more based in reality. The later ones got like really, and I love this. I love this franchise, the Final Destination franchise.
Yeah,
like, like ridiculous with the deaths, and I felt like that's how Saw was like how they got kind of ridiculous with like,
and like
the
my
deaths.
favorite Final Destination is 3. It's the best one.
Yeah.
Did you
That
know
was a
there's
good one.
Final Destination books? There are books in the Final Destination world that were written to be tie-ins to the movies, and one of them is about like a model who goes on a yacht that explodes, and like she doesn't go on it because she sees it happen, and like I have to read them.
And then she competes in Eurovision.
What?
That was a deep cut from the Eurovision movie. I'm so sorry.
I watched Eurovision and it was very good. I enjoyed it.
I saw in the chat someone was like Harper's Island. Yes, I love.
I love that show.
I
so
loved
much.
Harper's Island. Oh my god!
Like TV needs to bring back psychological thriller / horror series because that was so underrated. It was so good.
Yeah, it was so underrated because wasn't it like on CBS? I feel like CBS doesn't get a lot of the flashy stuff.
And also, I'm like trash weird, but a movie I watch repeatedly, it's so bad, is Identity with John Cusack. It's bad, but you should watch it.
I can't even remember.
Oh yeah, it's bad, but you should watch it. It's basically psychological like thriller. It's bad.
I'll watch like most any horror.
Yeah,
regardless of the actual rating of it. I watched
they
made a quarantine horror movie and it like takes place entirely on Zoom and had like a 2.
I want to see that.
I want to watch that.
I liked it. I thought it didn't deserve what they gave to it.
Have you guys seen Searching?
Not really, but it was.
Oh, I haven't, but I heard Searching was amazing.
Searching was amazing. And
Yeah.
like John Cho is in it, and John Cho is like a dad, was like everything that I ever wanted. But no, that one was really, really good.
That was very good.
Damien doesn't want to see that Zoom one because he said it's basically unfriended. And I'm just like, I don't care.
No, but Unfriended is a piece of garbage.
I liked Unfriended. I liked Unfriended Dark Web more.
The
Because
amount
I felt like that one was more realistic.
I just want to say the amount of anger I just saw on Lizelle's face was
Watching
also,
Unfriended made me so mad.
but also, Lainey, I love anything Dark Web, so I haven't seen that movie. I need to.
Yes.
I love
you
reading
should.
about Dark
It's
Web.
like, yes, it's everything that you want with like the Dark Web,
Love it.
like aesthetic is in that movie.
Yeah. And then another deep cut just on thrillers is Copycat. If anyone is a young child who has never seen it, you should. It's Sigourney Weaver being amazing, and it's about serial killers. So very formative for me. It's why I'm so weird.
Somebody accidentally called it Thai curry instead of Tim Curry.
I mean,
Hey guys, I gotta go. It's dinner time over here on the East Coast. So
okay, it has been 3 hours. So
Yeah,
we should wrap this up.
Yeah.
I gotta dip out, but
Right.
I enjoyed this and let's definitely do it again.
Yeah,
We're doing it next weekend on my
let's wrap it
channel.
up.
Oh yeah,
So next weekend,
So-
Lainey's channel for
We're doing
Book
it
Fest.
BookNet Fest, yeah.
We're doing a writing stream with sprints and stuff.
For a split second, I was like, was I invited to that? And it's on my freaking calendar.
Yeah.
I was like, everybody's going to something without me.
All right. So hope everyone had a good time, and we'll do it again soon.
Really quick, someone asked if we saw Knives Out. I just watched it last night.
I have controversial feelings about it, and we'll
I haven't
save
seen
that for another.
Okay, we're gonna have to save it.
Maybe you and I will talk, Kevin, later. Okay. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a good rest of your weekend.